I'm Lembit Öpik on Lembit Öpik Live, and on the show today, we're going to ask a question. What on earth does the man who still thinks he's the Prime Minister in Britain think he's doing, telling us to pretty much prepare for war? Keir Starmer in Munich has tried to make fine words to look like a big guy. I put it to you, he's taken his eye off the UK ball, and he's not playing the ball right around the world.
This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you!
Boring.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that. Remember what you're doing. You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel.
I call again for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, the return of the sausages, the hostages.
Welcome one and all. Lembit Öpik Live here on Unprecedented TV, where we find the facts, kill the spin, and tell it like it is about stories all over the world. We are ruthless about facts and gracious about opinions. And that's why, hopefully, you will find truth here, as well as strongly held opinions, but we don't try and force them upon you. So you make your judgments too. Also, there have been some interesting technical issues with X. We don't completely understand what's going on there, but if you're watching this live, congratulations on finding us there. There seems to be a very widespread issue. Correct me if I'm wrong, X, but we're working on that too. The fact you're watching it, though, thank you. It means possibly you've already subscribed to us at YouTube and at Unprecedented TV. Please do keep that coming. Very much appreciate you being involved. Now, let's talk about this unusual and rather weird conference, in my opinion, that's been taking place in Munich. Once again, if you're watching this live, a whole bunch of politicians, most of them fourth division in my view, turned up in Munich to tell us that we're in danger of Russian attack. There are Reds under our beds, that Greenland is still under threat, and that Keir Starmer is going to send battleships to the North Atlantic. I think he's about 80 years out of date on that one. But what is going on? Why is Keir Starmer, who now says that I finished a week in a stronger position than I started, why is that man continuing to act as if he's some kind of a world leader, where he's achieved absolutely nothing squared, I'm paraphrasing there, when it comes to Ukraine and the coalition of the willing? The coalition of the willing has done nothing apart from waste your money and mine and tons of lives in causing a fairly disorganized but relentless retreat of the Ukraine front. Well, joining me now, it's Warren Thornton, a man who I massively respect when it comes to these issues. Warren, good to see you. Just tell us again a little bit about your background.
Thanks very much, Lembit. Yeah, I was a military sniper for 6 years. And then, of course, when I finished, I became, should we say, protection for people in war-torn areas, for obviously people, care workers and people like that, who were looking after people in war-torn areas. So we used to protect them. And of course, we've seen many conflicts which have been started by many different governments. And of course, both sides of the coin, it can be quite hairy. And of course, sooner or later, it comes a point where you have to stop doing that because your luck runs out.
Yeah, I'd rather you than me. How many years did you do that?
I did that for 8 years.
That just sounds so risky. It sounds so dangerous. A bit like needing to get a double six 4 times in a row in a game of, is it called craps? I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, it tends to be that, of course, the good side of that is you make lots of contracts. First of all, in the, should we say, the caregiving aspect of it for people who run these charities who try to keep people safe. And you also get to meet lots of embassy and people that are military, or should we say embassy attaches, which are really military spooks in disguise.
Well, the survival of the fittest means you must be fairly fit. Or maybe you were just very, very lucky. Either way, it's good that you're here. Somebody who doesn't share your luck is this man here, and obviously Keir Starmer there, who's now saying another ridiculous thing. Europe must be ready to fight, PM tells Munich Security Conference. Why should Europe be ready to fight? What's he talking about, Warren?
Well, he's talking utter nonsense. He's trying to deflect from the utterly disastrous, shall we say, goings on at home. When it comes to the English Parliament, they always say, never hear Keir, for the simple fact that he's never in England. And of course, when he is, he stumbles from one disaster to another. If he thinks for 1 second that the British military are going to go out there and fight for him, he is completely and sadly mistaken. The British military is in no state to go and fight a war. He's talking absolute nonsense as per usual. He's talking a good game, but the British military is in no state to go and fight the Russians. What you've got to remember is Russia are now a battle-hardened force that has been fighting for 4 years against the second most battle-hardened force, of course, in Europe, which is the Ukrainian army. And the Ukrainian army are getting decimated. And all the nonsense they're coming out with about the numbers and everything else is complete nonsense. Now, we'd be going in there, should we say, like fresh-faced idiots. And, of course, that sort of thing happens quite often. The problem that we have, of course, we're not battle-hardened. We've never fought in a drone war. We'll be fighting inside of Russia and Ukraine. We don't know the terrain. We don't know the language. And, of course, as I say, we haven't been in trench warfare since sort of like the Second World War. And you've never seen anything like the butchery of this. And, of course, this is on parallels with World War One. So we are not ready. We have not performed in this theatre for many, many years. This is not chasing people around in Saudi Arabia or Afghanistan or Iraq or somewhere like this, or somewhere with a few soldiers, should we say, in places in Northwest Africa and places like this. This is a battle-hardened, ready enemy with all the equipment, satellites, drones, everything. They can outman us, outmatch us, and outfight us, I'm afraid.
Yeah, and all the while, it seems to me that we've got, and I'm going to use as strong a language as I dare, idiots, complete idiots. Like, well, Keir Starmer, in my opinion, doesn't understand this or doesn't care. He doesn't really usually look like he cares. He nearly lost his job at the beginning of the week, if you're watching this live, or last week. Now he's going and pontificating around in other parts of the world, talking rubbish. Now, in my view, now this Munich conference thing, it just seemed strange, because not only this, but he started saying Britain's Brexit years are over, claims Starmer. And the head of ports operator DP World resigns over his ties to Jeffrey Epstein. So these two stories dominating, Jeffrey Epstein and Keir Starmer. And Starmer's touched by the Epstein story a bit because of his old pal, Peter Mandelson. But we'll leave that for another day. Starmer, not just satisfied with talking about war, he's also talking about us kind of drifting back into the European Union. But this sounds like a crazy thing to do, because the European Union is talking about war just like Starmer. They all seem to think that Russia's going to invade and conquer Poland. Yeah,
it's simply not going to happen. What they're trying to do is boost and trying to keep the Americans on board. And now Ursula von der Leyen has turned around and said that it's absolutely crucial that America takes part in this war. That's not going to happen. The Americans are going to walk away. They have other priorities to deal with China in late 2027, early 2028. And they need to have this and Iran all wrapped up by then. And, of course, there's very much nobody is going along with the sort of peace deal. Putin's certainly not going to do that. And until they address the issues that the Russians want addressed, the peace deal is never happening. People can talk about talks all they like until the Americans or the Ukrainians or us in Europe get it through our thick heads that this is a war that's already lost. There is going to be no peace deal, Lembit. End of story. I've been banging on this drum for ages and no one is listening.
Let's talk about Volodymyr Zelensky, the professional comedian who is now in charge of Ukraine. Apparently doesn't think that there needs to be an election. I know you cover that in your show. But let's talk about the other part of this that you've mentioned. Rubio's Valentine's Day message to Europe: change or get dumped. Now, it's pretty much what you're saying. How do we need to change to not get dumped?
Well, very simply, they want us to go full military. Rubio is, if you like, I always call him Little Damien because I think he's probably one of the most dangerous men on the planet. If you've ever seen the film The Omen, you'll know what I'm getting at. This guy is a neocon conservative of the highest order. He is the military-industrial complex man. And what he wants is them to go full military in Europe and take over the war against Russia. That means, of course, giving lots and lots of money. But the central message is no good, Lembit, because apparently, very simply, they will want them to buy more and more. They'll have to up their military spending, and they'll have to buy it from America, of course, quite a lot of their weapons, which feeds the military-industrial complex. But the output that they are doing, and they're not on a war footing, the output they're doing means that they can't keep up. If Britain were to go to war today, they have more horses than they do tanks.
Is that literally true?
It is. Yeah, we have over 450 horses currently in military service, and of course we don't have anywhere near that amount of tanks.
Well, they worked fine in Waterloo, didn't they?
Yes, I think the charge of the Light Brigade this time won't be too good. They'll be met by drones before they even get halfway.
It was fanciful. I want to put my comment was that is perhaps British foreign policy is fanciful too. I just want to make an observation. If we can get that picture of Keir Starmer up again, I thought it was quite poignant. I didn't tell my team, but it's interesting that beneath the title, just the way that I think it's the BBC headline, the way it's set out, Europe must be ready to fight. PM tells Munich Security Conference, and there's no text. That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all he said. Europe must be ready to fight. I mean, it just.
Well, he is blank. He is very vanilla, I'm afraid. He's very, very blank. You cannot see people signing up and literally turning around and saying, I'm going to go and fight for Keir Starmer. Nobody's going to fight for Merz. Nobody's going to go and fight for Macron. We've given all our weapons to Ukraine, and they've used sort of 70% of them. So we've got nothing to fight with. And very simply, if the British Army went to war today, they would run out of equipment in 2 weeks.
That's crazy. That's crazy. You mentioned some of those people, and we'll come back to them in a minute. Look at those people. It's just like mention all three, actually. Weak Starmer has been forced into an unthinkable betrayal. We'll talk about that in a little while. Talk about that after the break if we can. Get rid of them for now, thank you. But in the meantime, we do seem to have a bit of a problem, because you've got these doom-mongering headlines coming out of this Munich conference. What is this conference exactly? What is it?
This conference is basically it's a propaganda exercise where people are just going to let off steam. You've got Alexander Stubb, who looked something like something out of Terminator with glasses. It is quite staggering how wrong Mark Rutte is and how Alexander Stubb is. And let's be honest here, if they were winning this war, there wouldn't be a peace deal. They'd still be going forward and trying to break Russia into more and more pieces. And of course, Stubb turned around and said that, of course, Finland and Sweden have joined NATO, so that's an own goal for Vladimir Putin. Well, it's not, because Finland and Sweden have now joined NATO, and now they're cowering under the bed going, oh my God, what's going to happen now? They're probably still rethinking that. He's literally turned around and said that the Russians are losing 30,000 soldiers a month. Well, that's not true, because we know that the Ukrainians are losing around about 13 to 14 soldiers for every one Russian. So that would mean that Ukrainians are losing pretty close to 200,000 soldiers a month. That's simply not happening. That's complete nonsense. So whoever Stubb's getting his figures from, it's completely useless. And of course, he's saying that Russia's economy is in the toilet, and it isn't. Russia's economy is booming.
Yeah, well, it's growing faster than the British economy, as far as I know. Alexander Stubb, he's the Finnish Prime Minister. I see what you mean about Terminator. He's a bit like the T-1000 you know, who runs like this. You know?
Yeah.
Just we're going to break in. Well, I'm going to break in a moment now. But I just wanted to say one of the biggest concerns I've got in this whole situation is the complete lack of in terms of the nonsense that I've been listening to with, I don't want to dwell on her because it annoys me, but Kaja Kallas, who's Estonian, who still seems to think that we can beat Russia and Ukraine. And then all these figures. I saw this speech by Zelensky, where he said that figure 35,000 dead a month. But your figure, you've always said this other figure. What's your source to say that it's like 10 or 8 or 20 or 30 to 1? Every Russian soldier killed is 20 or 30 Ukrainians killed. Where do you get that figure?
So it's gone up over since 2023, when it was pretty much about average. And then you had the summer offensive by the Ukrainians, and then it started to go up to 8 to 1. And then Media's owner did a wonderful, should we say, job on getting the numbers in and everything else for the BBC, and the BBC didn't publish them. And that was anywhere between 7 to 13 to 1, and that was back in 2023. Ukraine since then have lost good regular soldiers, and of course, when you get brand new conscripts come in, they don't know the lay of the land, and they die quite easily. So, of course, that pushes the numbers up and up and up. And, of course, the Russians are always handing back thousands of Ukrainians, while the Ukrainians are handing back 30, 40 Russians or whatever. Now, some of that can be because Russia are advancing. But according to the people at this Munich conference, the Russians aren't advancing. So how on earth are we getting that mixture of numbers where we're getting, over the course of 3 years, we've had 33,000 Ukrainians handed back by the Russians, 3,000 Russians handed back, but apparently there are 30,000 Russians dying a month, which is just complete and utter nonsense, Lembit.
Hold that thought. We'll come back to you in a minute. That's Warren Thornton, former sniper and investigative journalist, who always seems to have his finger on the button when it comes to figures. Now, I happen to agree with him. You may have a different view. Do say so in the comments if you like. But the story so far, this Munich conference, Warren regards as a public relations exercise. America, frustrated with Europe, is saying, change or get dumped. The Valentine's Day message of Marco Rubio, who's one of the big shots in the Trump administration. And all the while, people are dying in Ukraine. And you don't see very much about that on television. After the break, I want to look more into what Zelensky has in store, whether Starmer has any credibility on this subject, and what's going to happen next. But first of all, let's celebrate. Tim Scott uncancelled. He does the news review and looks at the papers so that you don't have to. That's Tim Scott Uncancelled, which you should be able to find on X, and most importantly at Unprecedented TV on YouTube, as well as at other places. Now, with me still is Warren Thornton. We're talking about the Munich Security Conference, which I thought was drivel as an event. I didn't find it at all plausible. Warren, we're talking about the gang of three here, the three amigos, and this headline was interesting. It struck us as relevant. Weak Starmer has been forced into an unthinkable betrayal. PM has become notorious for about turns, and backbencher pressure brings another one as closer EU alignment beckons. It seems to me that the self-satisfied, smug Prime Minister, for now at least, Keir Starmer, oblivious to the fact that whatever his Labour MPs tell him, he is still the most unpopular Prime Minister in British history, as far as I know. He's now wanting to reverse Brexit. And it's clear he's using all defence stuff as an excuse to do it. What do you make of that?
No, you're absolutely right. He is a globalist. He's a wet, young global leader. He has never had any other thought but to take the UK back into Europe. That is absolutely clear. He's always been working towards this, no matter what he said. And of course, along with Merz and Macron and everybody else, they are the three most unpopular leaders in Europe. The economies are in the toilet. They are robbing Peter to pay Paul. They keep giving money to Ukraine. And what you have to remember is this 90 billion loan, and of course, the UK are giving quite a good chunk of that. This 90 billion loan that they are giving to Ukraine is nothing of the sort, because the banks want their 50 billion back, where they've already made the loan to Ukraine. So 50 billion of that 90 billion is going to go straight to the banks. And then, of course, you're going to have the corruption and arms dealers and middlemen and banks getting their cut of the other 40 billion. So Ukraine aren't going to see much of that money whatsoever, Lembit.
Well, let's listen to what he said. And the reason I keep going back to the Brexit thing is because they're tied together. The Security Conference shouldn't be about this, in my view, if it was a serious conference. But he's totally disrespecting a once-in-a-generation, not going to have it again, referendum, which voted quite substantially to leave the European Union. And if you take the London vote out, very substantially to leave the European Union. I think Gibraltar was really keen to stay, but much of the rest of the United Kingdom's territory was not. Let's just listen to what he was saying.
Away petty politics and short-term concerns. It means acting together to build a stronger Europe and a more European NATO. We must build our hard power, because that is the currency of the age. We must be able to deter aggression. And yes, if necessary, we must be ready to fight, to do whatever it takes to protect our people, our values, and our way of life.
Well, there was one person I wouldn't want to be having in charge of our military if there was a war. It's him. He can't even quell the civil war in his own party. He's going to almost certainly lose a by-election. If you're watching this live, you'll know if I'm right or wrong if you're watching it in the archive. A by-election in Gorton and Denton where they're going to come third and maybe even fourth. And this man is preaching a closer European unity with military intent. Give me a break.
Yeah. Well, he can't protect our way of life. He can't stop the boats coming across the pond. So what he's going to do militarily, I don't know. He also can't protect the women of this country because he refused to have an independent inquiry into grooming gangs. But putting all that aside, when you look at what he's doing, obviously over there, it may surprise people to know that the former Speaker of the House, person who was very, very much, shall we say, got us embroiled in Brexit for 3 years, where they wouldn't actually have a proper vote on it and they wouldn't get out of Europe because John Bercow was stopping it, turned up at the Munich Security Conference. I don't wish to be a conspiracy theorist, but the man who tried very, very hard not to take us out of Europe suddenly turns up at the Munich Security Conference where Keir Starmer's talking about going back into Europe. How odd.
And if there was any doubt about Starmer's unpopularity, it's whenever you disrespect democracy, whether you're for or against being in the European Union. It's quite obvious he's disrespecting democracy. We get all these headlines. The end of the world order as we know it, what the Munich Security Conference means for the UK. America signalled at a major security conference that it's ready to go it alone without its European allies unless they get serious about rearming. So basically, the Americans are trying to tell this fourth division shower, rearm or go it alone.
I'm not being funny. Well done, Deborah. You've finally woken up. Deborah Haynes, who wrote the article. We've been saying this about America going it alone, that they were going to dump this in Europe's lap and run off into the sunset for almost the last year, saying that they were getting ready to dump it around 2026 and Europe will be left holding the baby. And of course, Europe are turning around and saying, well, we don't seem to have any nappies. Please stay with us and keep supplying us. So very, very simply, they've got a major problem because they haven't got any nappies for the baby. And without America, they're not going to be able to continue to look after this baby that is Ukraine and this war against Russia. If they try and do it, they're going to get absolutely flattened. And they know it. And the problem is America have got interests elsewhere. They've got interests in Cuba, they've got interests in Iran, and of course they've got China looming large in the distance with the Taiwan elections at the end of 2027. So all this has to be done by then. They certainly don't want to be bogged down in Ukraine. America have had enough of Ukraine. They gave it a go. It didn't work. Let's walk away. And the usual thing is let's let Europe deal with it. What they've actually done, Lembit, is very smart, because you're now paying at least double for your oil and liquid natural gas. You're buying all your weapons from America, and America are not going to be fighting.
Yeah, well, we're actually buying them from America. America is now monetizing the Ukraine conflict. Let's just look at this. Putin's next move: 5 Russian attack scenarios Europe must prepare for from the Atlantic Council. Bottom lines up front. If Vladimir Putin can't win a clear victory in Ukraine, he will seek one elsewhere. A clear victory in Ukraine would embolden Moscow to further aggression. So in other words, either way, Europe must prepare to meet these threats with less American support. It's just saying we're going to fight Russia. Well, the outcome of that's pretty obvious. Who would you be more? Who do you think would be more likely to win that conflict? Vladimir Putin with his millions of troops, or Merz, Starmer, and Macron? I mean, come on, give me a break.
I mean, Macron obviously doesn't realise what happened to Napoleon. Merz is one of these. He can hear the drums beating and the banners unfurling. One nation, one leader, one Germany. And of course, that's not going to work out too well. Keir Starmer is going to dither about and sit on the fence. We can't send more than 10,000 proper fighting troops into Ukraine. And here's the problem that we have, is they have totally missed the point here. That literally Russia are going to take the 9 oblasts that they want to have in the eastern part of Ukraine. And that includes Odessa. They're now blocking Odessa as a port. And sooner or later, they're going to march in there. And Russia have got time on their hands. This is what people don't understand. They're all going, oh, Russia isn't moving forward. It is denazifying Ukraine with every passing day. And of course, eventually, Ukraine will just run out of troops. And they call it Komodo dragon tactics, which was very much something that happened when Napoleon invaded and they retreated into the hinterland. And then when literally Napoleon's troops went, it's too cold, we haven't got any weather gear, we need to start marching and retreating out of Moscow. As they started going out of Moscow, the Russians hit them from that side, rather like Komodo dragons, taking a bite here, a bite there. And they waited until Napoleon's army was so weak, and then they just dived in and ripped them to shreds. Now, Napoleon's army started off 800,000 strong. When it came out, it had about 60,000 troops left. And this is exactly what's happening to Ukraine. They are taking bites out of Ukraine. They're not killing them off. They're just going to wait until they're so weak that they can just go in and tear them to pieces.
Yeah, but in the meantime, at this Munich conference, get ever more dramatic headlines. End of the world order, as we know what the Munich conference means for the UK. Back to this central theme. Like, if you think about that line, which is fairly intense, it does actually simply reflect what people are saying there, that the old world order is over. I actually have a different view of this headline. I think this is Trump and the Americans saying, you are such a bunch of fourth division losers that we can't do business with you anymore. That's what I think Trump's saying, because you're just looking at political minnows. I mean, Merz, Macron, Starmer. What's happened? We at least had second division players before. These people are fourth division. Sometimes, occasional first division, not always on my side. I mean, you look at Blair. I may not have agreed with Blair on a lot of stuff, but he was really big character. Thatcher, I disagreed with her even more, but she stood proud on the world stage. Her and Reagan and Gorbachev. You knew those three people were running the world. Now Xi Jinping, Trump probably, and Putin and Modi coming up the rear as well. But Starmer's not there.
Let me give you a piece of advice here. Imagine it's a horse race, and Europe, literally, the Americans have bet all their money on the horse that's in last place, and there's no chance of winning. And they've just sold They've just sold their betting slip to the Europeans. That's exactly what's going on here. That's it.
But then they've also got political giants of their own at the conference. There's one, Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, I think she's known as, offers a working class vision in Munich with some stumbles. Speaking at Europe's largest security conference, she tied income inequality to the rise of authoritarians and offered a forceful rebuttal to President Trump's worldview. Yeah, and she made mistakes. I have never thought she's much good. She sits there in all her self-importance.
Trouble is, Lembit, we've got Alexander occasionally compos mentis turning up and trying to make out she's some sort of heavyweight. But the problem is she's already turned around and said we've got to turn USAID back on and all these, shall we say, the NGOs where the money flows in. And of course, that's where most of the corruption was that they'd shut down. So she's not exactly the brightest chocolate or the smartest cookie that you could possibly imagine. I don't, to be one of those, I think she's about as much use as an ashtray on a motorbike. And the problem that we've got is we've got Hillary Clinton there as well. And when you look at some of the figures that are turning up, this has turned into a joke. We've got the former prince of Iran, or shall we say the exiled prince of Iran, meeting Zelensky. I mean, this is just manna from heaven. The Russians, the Chinese, the Indians, everybody that I speak to are just laughing at this whole conference, Lembit.
Meanwhile, Zelensky says there's been big progress. I watched his speech. He always has that talking voice. It's irritating to listen to. But that's maybe not his fault. Fair play, his English has improved massively, but the content has not. So he's going around doing his usual thing, send me more money and fight my war.
Yes.
And I just don't find him credible. He meets Rubio. I'm sure that Trump just doesn't respect him. He actually said he needed to sort things out. And I saw just recently that Zelensky said that 90% of Ukrainians don't want to have an election.
Yeah.
I think you covered it in your show as well.
Yeah, absolutely. This is complete nonsense, of course, because they have turned around and said the Ukrainians, those that are allowed to vote, of course, have gone 70%. Now, you've got to remember, he's literally the guy sitting next to him. Is Rustem Umerov, who's the defense secretary, who was completely embroiled in the scandal of money and everything else, the laundering of money and everything else. And now Zelensky is just a puppet. He is useful as long as he's doing what the Americans want. Every now and again, he gets an idea that he actually runs his country, which, of course, is not true. He just does what he's told and, of course, goes along with the problem with Zelensky is that he's believed the Europeans a lot of the time, which has angered the Americans. He's meant to be doing what the Americans want, and they don't want him stepping out of the box. And when he goes and does what the Europeans want, of course, that's when we get a problem. But whichever way, he's owned either way.
He's no better than Starmer, who's really provoked a lot of people. There's another headline: Starmer to invoke anti-spirit of Brexit. Munich speech. Prime Minister will further risk the wrath of Nigel Farage and his Brexiteers by saying that UK is no longer the Britain of the Brexit years, in a call for European unity to defend the continent from Russian aggression as the US steps back. Russian aggression. So does he really not understand it so badly? He really thinks that Russia's going to try to invade the European Union. Is he really that uninformed?
He really is. And the problem is, Keir, I'm going to let you into a little secret here. France have still been buying LNG and oil from Russia under the table. Ursula von der Leyen has done a deal with India, where India are going to be supplying, of course, their LNG and oil. And of course, we know full well that that's coming from Russia. And in fact, Donald Trump absolutely lost the plot about it a couple of weeks ago when he found out that that was the case. And of course, he put the European tariffs up, of course. And then, of course, he turned around and said that India are not going to buy their oil from Russia, but they still are. So there's a lot of people that are all going, we're not going anywhere near Russian oil, but everybody's having it.
Yes, well, I would say that when you've got those people, there they are again, Starmer, Macron, and Zelensky, thinking that they are in some significant way world important. well, all three of them have been made to look like idiots,
Yes.
like fools. Macron, when he went to see Putin, was put at the end of a really long table. It was hilarious.
He was,
It
yes.
was hilarious. And Starmer was totally shown up in Egypt when he went there for the photo op. Oh, we got the photo op, all right. Where's the United Kingdom? Where's the United Kingdom? And he glances. Starmer glances at the microphone, clearly thinking he's going to be asked to say a few words about a special relationship. and Trump just turns his back, and Starmer has to go to the back again. And then Zelensky, who, frankly, seems to have to walk away from all his former associates and number twos because they've been caught up in corruption scandals. And those are the people that are going to win it for Zelensky. I don't think so. I mean,
No.
does anyone actually seriously think that Zelensky can do anything other than kill more people while making a slow retreat?
Yeah, it's just not going to happen. There is not, and the problem that we have, Lembit, is the two people who just might be able to talk to Putin, of course, are Orban, and of course, Serbia might be one of those, but Orban would be the necessary go-to guy. And already Zelensky is completely almost at war with Hungary, and some of the things he said about Hungary, they just go off. He's just gone off the deep end. So of course, Hungary are not well disposed towards him. The one guy who could have saved your country, what's left of it, you've just upset completely. It's an absolute shambles, Lembit.
Where can people get more insight on your shows, Warren?
Monday to Friday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. GMT, and of course on Sunday night, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Of course, with a wonderful, unprecedented Lembit Öpik.
Thank you so much. And after the show, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about what's going to happen. And it's all great news. That's Warren Thornton. And sooner or later, we're going to let you know as well. We're making some pretty exciting moves here at Unprecedented. A new collaboration coming up in a matter of weeks. Thank you to Warren. Let me just add two more thoughts. One is I just cringe when I see these pointless conferences making Dreamtime comments in a fantasy politics environment, and it's just costing us money and lives. And the second thing is, if I was America, I'd probably walk away as well and come back when some professionals have taken over the reins in the European Union and also in the United Kingdom. In the meantime, though, thank you very much for watching. Please do like and subscribe at Unprecedented on YouTube. And thanks very much indeed for sticking with us with some technical issues, which apparently are affecting a lot of people on some of these sites. But we're fixing it all. You're going to have unfettered access to a whole lot more very, very soon. I'm Lembit Öpik. That was Lembit Öpik Live on Unprecedented TV. Do please, as I say, like and subscribe. I'll see you soon.
Immediate ceasefire in Gaza. The return of the sausages.